ना बीवी ना बच्चा ना बाप बड़ा ना मैया. The whole thing is that
Ever since the invention of money, it's torn apart loved ones, sparked wars, and fueled some of the darkest crimes. But what you're about to hear takes the obsession for wealth to a level so shocking and unique. A judge called it the rarest of rare crime, something so unprecedented the world had never seen anything like it. A case so dark, it redefined the boundaries of human cruelty, where science became the deadliest weapon. This story will leave you speechless. Let's begin. It was November 26, 1933. Crowds thronged the platforms of iconic Howrah Station, the principal railway station of Calcutta. Passengers alighting and boarding, coolies looking for customers, and hawkers trading their wares. Among the many waiting for their train are some members of the royal family of Pakur. Amarendra Chandropande, the younger heir of the family, is travelling to the family's estates, accompanied by his elder sister Bonobala and some staff members. Suddenly, an unwelcome personage enters the scene. His elder half-brother, Benoyendra, arrives out of nowhere, declaring himself as a last-minute addition and leading to much consternation among the travel party. The elder brother was disliked all around. He had grown up as a young man, full of every vice imaginable: gambling, horse racing, and visits to Norch houses. The death of their father 4 years earlier had further accelerated his descent into darkness. The estate had been split equally between the two brothers in the final testament of their deceased father, and it was common knowledge that the arrangement was not to the elder brother's liking. Just as they were about to board the train, a stout man, wrapped in a shawl, rammed into Amarendra and quickly moved on without a word. He felt a sharp prick on his arm at the moment. After taking his seat, he rolled up his sleeve and saw a tiny hole on his skin, from which was oozing a colorless liquid. His sister was very distressed to spot this and wanted to abort the journey. But Benoyendra intervened, making light of the situation, and said medical attention will be available if needed once they reach Pakur. Amarendra agreed, and the party proceeded as per plan. Shortly after reaching Pakur, things unfolded fast. Amarendra became seriously ill, and the family rushed him back to Calcutta. His temperature shot up to 105 degrees. His whole right arm was badly swollen, and his blood pressure and heartbeat both were fluctuating dangerously. A team of doctors tried desperately to revive him, but in vain. On December 3rd, the unfortunate young man slipped into a coma and died the next day. Bonobala was distraught in grief. She suspected foul play and Benoyendra's hand in it. Meanwhile, the doctors treating Amarendra were confounded. They had no explanation as to how a young healthy man of 20 with no known ailments and a habit of regular exercising could die like this. One of the doctors decided to send a sample of Amarendra's blood to the School of Tropical Medicine for culture. The report uncovered something utterly chilling: bipolar rods of the deadly plague bacillus. Yes, the same bacteria responsible for the infamous bubonic plague. In that moment, the family's worst nightmare was no longer just a fear. It was becoming a horrifying reality. An FIR was filed against Benoyendra. The case was handed to E.H. Lebrock, officer in charge of the Detective Department of Calcutta Police. The suspect fled from Calcutta, but was apprehended soon on February 16, 1934. Over the next 2 days, police also arrested his main associate, Dr. Taranath. Detective Lebrock's flawless investigation now revealed a sordid tale. Determined to deny his younger brother his rightful 50% share of the ancestral wealth, Benoyendra had struck up friendship with Taranath, an unscrupulous man who worked as an assistant in a laboratory on Cornwallis Street. His work had made him somewhat of an authority on microbes and their role in causing diseases. Together, earlier, they'd hatched the plan to murder Amarendra using the tetanus-tainted pince nez. When it failed, they became even more desperate. The duo then came up with the ingenious idea of using bubonic plague germ. Taranath first tried to procure a sample of bacillus from the Haffkine Institute in Arthur Road, Bombay, citing research needs. But his request was denied. Undeterred, Benoyendra traveled to Bombay. There he befriended two researchers of the Haffkine Institute. The two men were treated to a lovely evening at a posh Bombay hotel. An envelope filled with cash exchanged hands. And this was how a vial of the deadly microbe came into his possession. Taranath, meanwhile, had taken up work as an assistant in a private lab under an alias. With the deadly agent procured, he experimented with it on white rats to fine-tune the plan. After 5 days, he simply vanished and never showed up at the lab again. It was thanks to the brilliant and meticulous work of Detective Lebrock and his team that this heinous and mind-boggling crime came to light. Both men were convicted and sentenced to the gallows. The assailant who had carried out the crime was, however, never found. On appeal, the punishments for both Benoyendra and Taranath were reduced to life in prison. The elder prince lived out the rest of his life at the cellular jail in Andaman. The horrific and cunning murder sent shockwaves far beyond national borders, making headlines around the world. Time magazine labeled it Murder with Germs. According to the BBC, this was one of the first known cases of individual bioterrorism in modern history. And as the world looked on in horror, one thing became clear. Evil just found a new weapon. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe and turn on notifications for more deep dives into stories that matter.